The dust has barely settled in Doha, and UFC Qatar might have delivered the most emotional, chaotic, and flat-out unpredictable night of the year. But before we break down the finishes, the reactions, and the backstage drama, let me start with the moment that had everyone in the arena holding their breath. Because right after one of the prelims wrapped up, a fighter collapsed to his knees in disbelief, and the man who ran in to lift him up was the last person anyone expected. It wasn't his coach, it wasn't a teammate, it was Islam Makhachev himself. UFC Qatar wasn't just about knockouts and submissions, it was about careers changing direction in real time, friendships being tested, and a backstage incident that almost turned the night upside down. Let's get into all of it. We'll start on the prelims, where Alexandre tuporia picked up a clean, unanimous decision win over Khamzat Almakhan. That moves him to 2-0 in the UFC, and even Merab Dvalishvili jumped online to congratulate him. Tuporia post-fight interview was exactly the kind of raw honesty fans love. He said he didn't even know how good his performance was, but he was grateful just to be standing there with a win. He talked about ambition, not for fame or attention, but for the experience of putting himself in difficult moments and seeing what comes out of it. He even mentioned hearing another fighter crying in the back after losing, and said that even the painful nights should be appreciated because not many people get to live them. It was one of the more real moments of the night. That led straight into one of the most emotional scenes on the card. Saeed, a teammate of Islam Makhachev, made his UFC debut but came up short against Nicolas Dalby in a split decision. When the scores were read, Saeed went to his knees. You could see the disappointment hit him like a truck. Islam walked over immediately, grabbed him by the arm, pulled him back up and walked with him to the back. Dalby, for his part, admitted he had been feeling the pressure after 2 straight losses. He said in this sport, 3 bad nights can put your whole job at risk, so getting this win took a weight off his shoulders. Luke Riley's debut gave everyone a jolt of energy. He stopped Bogdan Grad in the second round with a clean knockout, and Paddy Pimblett was practically losing his mind in the corner. Terence McKinney jumped on social media calling Riley for real, while Renato Moicano joked online that someone needed to translate Riley's accent because he couldn't understand a word. In the cage, Riley was almost overwhelmed. He said he'd soak it in later at the hotel, but for now, he was just a happy man living his dream. Then the main card opened with a huge return. Kyoji Horiguchi came back to the UFC and submitted Tagir Ulanbekov in the 3rd round with a rear naked choke. He didn't hesitate afterward. He called for a title shot against Alexandre Pantoja, who's actually a former teammate of his. Bo Nickal, Michael Chiesa, and Henry Cejudo all reacted, with Henry even saying Horiguchi is the biggest threat to Pantoja's title. Ariel Helwani tweeted that he wants to see Horiguchi fight the Pantoja Cape winner as soon as possible. Horiguchi kept things simple in his interview. He said he's always in the gym, always calm, and always focused on getting the belt. Waldo Cortes-Acosta delivered one of the wildest storylines of the entire event. He stepped in on 3 days' notice after Sergey Spivak pulled out and still knocked out Shamil Gaziev in the 1st round. And that was already his 2nd first-round finish this month. He's been walking around with an eye patch since he got poked in his last fight, openly mocking Tom Aspinall. And after this win, he even handed Michael Bisping a matching eye patch. Bisping laughed and posted online that at least they got the right eye this time. Fighters across the community reacted, and Ariel Helwani said the year should end with Salsa Boy fighting on the December 13th card. Waldo explained afterward that he trains constantly, spars almost every day, and believes he can fight every week. Whether that's realistic or not, he's become one of the more entertaining personalities in the division. Next up, Mitbek Oro shocked the arena by knocking out Jack Hermansson in the 1st round. Hermansson had dropped to welterweight for this one after a brutal knockout loss at middleweight, but the move didn't help. Luke Thomas said the punch didn't even look like it landed clean, but still shut Hermansson down. And the MMA guru suggested that it might be time for Jack to consider retirement. The coaching staff said they'll take a month to figure out whether he stays at 170 or goes back up. Volkan Oezdemir reminded everyone why they call him No Time. He stopped Alonzo Menefield in the 1st round with a perfectly timed knee and follow-up shots. Ariel Helwani called it sheesh-worthy, and Kenny Florian posted about the nasty KO right afterward. In his interview, Volkan said he wanted to show the world that he still belongs in the top 5. He broke down how he and his coach spent weeks drilling that exact counter, and he said he wants Jamahal Hill next. He also talked about opening his new gym in Switzerland and how he had to switch between coaching and training during camp. The win clearly meant a lot to him. Then came the co-main event where Garry beat Belal Muhammad by unanimous decision. He immediately called for a title shot against Islam Makhachev. Not everyone agreed. Kamaru Usman responded with a yawning emoji. Charles Oliveira congratulated him but didn't say much else, and Henry Cejudo said Ian should rematch Shavkat Rakhmonov before talking about titles. Caio Borralho joked that the real next contender is Carlos Prates, and Tim Welch said Ian is still a future champion, John Anik pointed out that if we're talking pure merit, Ian has done enough. Garry kept his message direct. He said Bilal couldn't take him down, Islam couldn't do it in sparring, and that he's the best welterweight in the world. He told Islam to sign the contract and defend the belt against him. Finally, the main event. Arman Tsarukyan submitted Dan Hooker in the second round with a tight arm triangle choke. Henry Cejudo said Arman might be the guy to dethrone Ilia Tuporia. Luke Thomas called it the best version of Tsarukyan he's ever seen. Tim Welch's live reaction said it all. He was calling out how deep the choke was before Hooker even tapped. After the win, Arman celebrated with Khamzat Chimaev, who had been in his corner. Khamzat picked him up and carried him around the cage. Tsarukyan didn't waste time calling for a title shot, saying he's ready as early as January. But the night wasn't done. Backstage, Ian, Garry and Khamzat crossed paths, and the tension they've had for months finally spilled over. Garry congratulated him at first, but the moment turned heated. Khamzat ended up shoving him, security stepped in, and Garry walked off calling the whole thing childish. He said Khamzat should be celebrating Arman's win instead of trying to start something in the hallway. The event closed with the usual community wrap-up, but the tone felt different. UFC Qatar gave us everything. Comebacks, heartbreak, surprise knockouts, and a backstage shove that might turn into a future fight. If you enjoyed the recap, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And let me know in the comments, which moment from UFC Qatar stood out the most to you?